Welcome to the Nate KG podcast, where I talk with jump ropers of all skill levels, with different styles, geographical locations, and fitness goals to answer the simple but all-encompassing question, what is jump rope to you? In this episode, I talk with Declan McCarthy at DecMCC10 on Instagram. Declan is truly an amazing guy, and this was actually the first time we've spoken outside of Instagram DMs. We get into a lot of different topics, including the evolution of Dec's training style, the major we both started with at university, spoiler, it's the same, and also his journey with OCD. OCD, or obsessive compulsive disorder, is a multifaceted condition, and Dec does a really phenomenal job unpacking the different elements and explaining what it's like to live with OCD. It really envelops the mind, and I'm extremely grateful for his willingness to discuss the difficulties he's faced. I have so much respect for this guy, like for real. And at one point we discuss, given the opportunity, whether or not he would change everything he's gone through. His answer surprised me, and I think it's going to surprise you as well. Also, just a heads up that I recorded this at 6 a.m. my time, so it takes me a few minutes to warm up at the beginning of the show, just so you know. And also, all of the show notes and links can be found over at natekg.com. With that being said, please enjoy my conversation with Declan McCarthy. Declan, how's it going, man?
I'm doing great. I'm doing brilliant. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, man, no sweat. So it is about 6 a.m. my time here in California. Where are you at?
I'm at 2 p.m. in Manchester, England, UK.
Oh, dude, nice. That's what's up. I love having these international calls, man. It's so cool to connect with people from overseas.
Yeah. But it's also confusing with time differences and all that.
True that. We were going back and forth a little bit on DM, like, hey, like, does this time work? Is this correct? I don't know.
Yeah, I kept looking at like what time it is over there. I'm like, right, okay, does he mean this time? So then I'll be So.
Nice. Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, sort of around. Well, like I grew up sort of Warrington area, which isn't too far from Manchester. So it's all around that sort of area that I've lived and grown up in and was born, which is in the northwest. So
nice.
Yeah,
cool. And we were chatting a little bit briefly before we started recording here. You actually had your own podcast, right, a while ago?
Yeah. I mean, like I've loved listening to yours. It's been something to put on at the gym, and I know how like difficult a podcast can be, like making one. So, I used to have like a film one years ago, where just talking about films with a friend of mine, and we would like review a film and just talk about films coming out. And it's a lot of man hours that you have to put in for 1 hour of content. It's about, like we said, 5 hours of work or something like that.
True that. Was your podcast, you said it was about film? Was that like film critique?
Yeah, just sort of like talking about films coming up, films that we liked, and just sort of mainly sort of like superhero ones or just popular films coming out, and looking at what was going to come out and talking, just all based around film, really.
Oh, that's cool. Nice. What was your just out of curiosity, like what was your favorite film that you talked about on the show?
That's going back. I can't remember, to be honest. I mean, it was probably like Marvel ones, so it was probably about like Thor and the Avengers, sort of around that time. So it was about 10 so years ago, something like that.
Nice.
Maybe.
Cool.
So
nice. Well, let's jump into the jump rope stuff, because I think that's probably what everyone is kind of hanging here for. So let's kind of start with. I guess let's go at the beginning of your fitness journey, because we have a lot to dive into for sure, because you have an awesome journey and it's super impressive and inspiring. But let's kind of start at the beginning of where fitness and sport started for you. So when did you start doing exercise, and why?
So, I mean, I've never been a sporty person at all. Like at school, it was one of my most hated sort of classes and stuff. Like I just wasn't that into fitness. I wasn't like heavily out of shape, but I wasn't in shape, if you know what I mean. So I was always like, one of the last to be picked for teams. I can remember we'd always have like little assessments every so often where we'd do things like the bleep test or a cross country run, and I would
Mm-hmm.
literally hate it. I would be running the whole time, just praying for it to end as soon as possible, just to get it over with. So I was never really sort of into that sort of sport kind of thing. And then basically, it's only sort of been within the last few years of me trying to get into shape that I've really like changed my whole view on fitness and love it. And now, any excuse to exercise is a good one. Like
Mm-hmm.
compared to wanting to stay away from it as much as possible. So it's only recently, after gaining the weight and decided I wanted to lose it, that I sort of became into sport and fitness and jump rope.
When did you gain weight?
So I gained weight around when I was 18. So I'm 24. So about 6 years ago. And yeah, because I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't like in the best shape, but I was sort of average,
Yeah.
especially around 18. Like I was sort of average, not like the fittest person, but not out of shape. But then with getting sort of depression, I gained a ton of weight, and then I lost it after a couple of years. I decided that I wanted to lose the weight, and then went on sort of a weight loss journey over a year, and managed to get into better shape than I was before I gained the weight, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah. And so before we kind of jump into because I have a lot of questions on your exact fitness routine and jump rope stuff. I'm really curious. But before we get
cool.
there, you mentioned when kind of the depression set in. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit and what you're comfortable with in terms of what that was like and why, and kind of the context of that? Because I think for many people, they don't quite understand what that means, you know?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. So, basically, for those who don't know, I suffer from OCD. So, it's something that I've pretty much always had. Um, I've the earliest instance that I can remember, which was kind of like a catalyst for it, was basically when I was a kid. Me and my family went out for a night out, and we came back, and there was like a wet patch on the ceiling. So we all went up to sort of investigate what it was, and basically someone had left the bathroom tap on, and there was a bar of soap covering the sinkhole, so it literally just overflowed and went onto the floor.
Mm.
And basically, no damage was done. Literally, just put some towels down and it dried, and everything was fine. But I remember being asked about like, does anyone remember leaving the tap on or this, that, and the other? And I'm one of those people that like, rather than saying no, I'll just say like I don't know, because I'm not saying yes or no. Like I just said like I
Right.
don't know. Like I generally didn't, and to this day, like I don't know if I did or not, but I guess I kind of felt responsible for it, and that kind of triggered my sort of. I think I had it before, but it kind of like was the catalyst where it just sort of it started to build and get worse from there on, because from then on it was like, oh well, I don't want something like that to happen again, so I'll make sure I check that the taps are off, and then
Mm-hmm.
it goes from checking the taps to checking other things in the bathroom, and then checking stuff in your room, and then rooms that you've been in the house, and then it just sort of snowballed over the years, where it went from just checking the taps were off to checking the house to checking tons of things before like leaving for school or whatever. So
And so
basically,
you said OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder,
compulsive
correct?
disorder. Yeah,
And
yeah.
and what, because I could see how someone might confuse that with, just like maybe one day you're just really, you're going off on a trip and you're checking everything 3 times, right? But what is the difference
hmm
between, checking it that day or two versus having OCD?
Well, with like OCD, it's like every time. It's not like, and it's the frustrating thing about OCD is that the person can tell that everything's okay, but they don't trust themselves and they just keep checking. And it's the most frustrating thing in the world, which I can't stress enough. Like, for example, I'll switch a light off. I know I've switched it off, but I'll like check it and I'll keep checking it and I'll spend, minutes checking it, you know what I mean? Or, well, back then I would, and it's frustrating because you know that it's off. You can see that it's off, but it's just that compulsion that you've got into that sort of, and the fact that you don't trust yourself, that you keep checking it, and it's the most frustrating things in the world. And there's many different types of OCD. Like, I would figure out later on that I suffer from a couple of them, but there's like things with hygiene, like washing your hands. There's things like with keeping things tidy, or things a certain way, or having a certain routine that you compulsively have to follow. That you no matter what, you have to do it. You know what I mean? Because you feel like if you carry out these compulsions, that your anxiety levels will decrease, or that will for some reason make things better. But the thing is with OCD is that when you give it that time and that energy, it just gets worse basically, because you're giving it what it wants basically.
Interesting.
So basically over the years, it was just sort of with checking stuff, and it wasn't great, but it was manageable, as in like I knew that okay, I would have to maybe leave the house 15 minutes earlier because I know that I would spend time checking rooms and stuff like that. And when I was a kid, it was always like, oh, while you were away from like the house, I would worry like, oh, have I left it on still, even though I've checked it and done all my little routines, I would still worry about it. So it was like, it was constantly kind of with you. You couldn't really get away from it.
And so then that kind of led into depression.
Well, yeah, because basically what happened is that I did see like some life coaches, but about it for one little session, but their advice didn't really help me, and it helped for a little bit, and it kind of subsided, but then it just came back, and because I didn't really see any like therapists or specialists in it, it just got worse and worse, to the point that when I was around 18, I was studying at university, I was studying film, and like a hybrid of multiple things. It was stresses at uni and like growing up, and like I was in a relationship that ended badly, and all sorts of things that it just started to get worse and worse, to the point where basically I suffered from something called intrusive thoughts, which I didn't really know about. And like, I didn't know it was my OCD, sorry, until going to like therapy and seeing someone for it. Because basically with intrusive thoughts, it's we all get thoughts that just randomly pop into our head every day, like just random ones. And people with OCD will be able to go, oh, well, that's just a random thought, and just sort of dismiss it straight away within milliseconds. But when it's like a distressing thought, a person with OCD will analyze it, and they will look into why they're having that thought. They'll go, for example, the example that I always use is if you were walking with a cup of coffee and you were worried like, oh, what if I spilt it? Well, someone who doesn't have OCD would be able to go, I know I've not spilt it, it's fine, and just keep on walking. But a person with OCD will go, oh, well, have I? They'll check that the lid's on. They may check that there's not a spill on the floor. They may go, well, no one's like screaming in pain as if I've dropped it on them by accident, and they'll look for evidence basically of whether that's happened or not. And because they are like giving time to that thought, they're giving energy basically to it. It's creating like a negative sort of
Feedback
thing,
loop,
basically. Yeah, like a feedback loop where basically, they're thinking, oh well, does that mean I want to throw coffee on someone? Does that mean I'm a bad person? And basically, it got to the point where I was having like horrible thoughts in my head, like all day, every day, to the point where I thought I was the worst person in the world. Like literally, at one point, I remember I had to leave university because I just couldn't cope anymore. I had to leave my job. I literally just stayed at home. I couldn't leave the house on my own. I barely left the house at all. I would literally be in my bed, like crying my eyes out because I was so scared and afraid that I had done something wrong or that I was a terrible person or what are all these thoughts? Why do I keep, you know, basically just going round and round in my head all day, like a war was going on in my head, and I literally just would be in my bed crying my eyes out, just basically not wanting to live anymore. I couldn't cope. I literally just broke down and it was like that for a while as well, to the point where it was just like, when I think back on it, it feels like a different life, like it was like it happened to someone else, kind of, in a way, like, oh yeah, I did go through that. You know what I mean? When I think back on it, because I'm so far away from that now, and I'm so much better. But it's it it was like, it was one of the worst things. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Literally, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. It was horrible.
And from what I understand, it's like you get so, like you're saying, that feedback loop, you get so far deep into your own head that you forget
Yeah,
to see what's around you. Is that
yeah,
correct? Like where
exactly.
you
Yeah,
you can't even not understand, but you can't think about or be aware of any other kind of reality other than those thoughts circulating in your head.
exactly. Literally, I would try and distract myself. Like I would try and read a book, but it would only work for so long before I was back into that sort of thinking. Another random thought would pop up, and my family didn't, like, we all didn't know what was going on. We all didn't know that this was OCD, basically, and they were, trying to console me and say, look, you've not done anything bad, it's okay. But OCD is often that what if, that what if, and because there's that little spark of, oh, what, it's like that little voice that goes, oh, what if,
Mm-hmm.
and because basically it gets you to feed into that, and because you're thinking of that what if, it creates that sort of loop and that continuous circle where it just gets worse and worse. The more you think about it, the more that you give it that time and that energy, you just go, round and round, basically.
So you tried to use books to stop that feedback loop. Is there anything else? I'm assuming did jump rope come into the mix, and then that's what helped, or
Well,
um,
actually, jump rope came in, like after I had therapy, basically, because um, but it does help my OCD now. But I was just trying anything to distract myself, watching like a film, just trying to. I would go out with my parents, but it just, it was so difficult that I went. We sought help, and we went, over here in the UK. You have like the public health system and the private health care system. So
mhm.
the public one is like funded through tax and stuff, and basically because it's funded through tax, it's free, but it's not, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
you pay your tax, but you get the help from the NHS and stuff. But because the fact that there's so many demand for it, and there's not the resources available, I would have been waiting months and months until I got to even just see someone. Never mind, um, you know, just to even see someone, to just talk about, okay, what's happening with you. And I needed the help within like hours, not months. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Right.
That was basically, it needed to be now. So we went private, and I had therapy for depression, for anxiety, for OCD, for one-to-ones. And I slowly, after these sessions and these therapies, I learned the techniques basically to deal with my OCD and to overcome my depression. I mean, I was on medication, which caused partially weight gain, but partially it was because, because I didn't care about living anymore. I didn't care what I ate, so I ate whatever, you know what I mean? I ate junk food, and just my diet was horrible, and some of the medication I was on increases your appetite and all this lot. So it was just basically I gained weight till I was 20 stone. So basically I just kept sort of eating because I didn't care. But then once I got all the therapy and I got my mind back on track, I thought, well, I started to work again. I got a job, and I went to a trip to America, which I'd always wanted to do. I went to New York, and then after all that, I realized, I want to. I'm still overweight. I want to lose this weight. I want to try and get in the best shape as possible, and that's basically where jump rope comes in.
And real quick, just to touch on something, you said you were 20 stones?
Yep.
So 1 stone is equivalent to about 14 pounds. I've heard you mention that before, so I looked it up before we started recording. So
yeah, it's always confusing, the conversion rate. People say how many pounds, how many kilograms, how many, so
20 stones is roughly equivalent to about 280 pounds.
Yeah.
So then that's when you started to jump, is you kind of reestablish that mental foundation. Use some techniques, some routines to get where you needed to be, and then you attacked fitness. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically, because there was no point me getting my body in shape if I just couldn't function at all.
That is so true.
Yeah, and although I do believe now that fitness can help the mind, and it's like a symbiotic thing. I was at that stage, that I just needed to get my mind straight first. If I couldn't leave the house, how could I? And I wasn't really even leaving my bedroom that much. It was going to be difficult to get, my body back in shape.
Well, if you've got a broken arm or a broken foot, there's no way for you to go exercise, right? Like, you might be able to get around it, but not when it's something like that. That's that severe,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so you're at the point where you're ready to go to the gym. How did you start? What was the thought process?
So basically, I took a look at myself and realized I needed to lose the weight. And I did start going to the gym about 2 times a week, but it wasn't intense enough. Like, if it was just sort of sitting on a bike, pedaling for like half an hour, just like watching something on my phone, and then that was it. It was, lift a tiny bit of weight and then go. Well, it wasn't intense enough for what I needed.
But did that give you a sense of accomplishment? Because I would imagine going from nothing to showing up to the gym was still a win.
It was a win, but I realize now that if I'd have kept that routine up, there was no way I wouldn't have lost that much, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, because that your goal was to lose weight, not to just show up to the gym.
Yeah, it was just like, before I realized actually I want to get in as best shape as possible, that's just what I was doing. I was just sitting on the bike, pedaling away. Not that there's anything wrong with that, it just wasn't intense enough. Like, I know that, like the amount I was going and the volume, it wasn't enough, basically.
Right, because in order to lose weight, you have to have a calorie deficit, and if you're not putting in the work to have that calorie deficit, it's just not happening.
Yeah, exactly. And so I decided, right, I'm going to change my diet, which was basically to reduce what I ate and try and eat healthier. That's all I set out. A lot of people often ask, what's your diet? But literally, I just tell them that I don't calorie count. I don't do any of that. I know my body, and I know that, I know when I've eaten enough, basically.
So I'm curious, real quick, just to touch on that. Do you have like internal parameters or variables that you're looking at? Like, do you look for food that's not processed or different colors, or is there something that you are looking for in food besides calories and macros and stuff?
Not really. I mean, I'll occasionally I'll look at something, or I'll just know that actually that'll probably have tons of calories and stuff. But I don't really do that, to be honest, because I know if I try and eat healthy and I exercise enough, which I know for certain I'm doing now, definitely.
Right.
That I'll burn it off, and so that was just what I did diet wise. And then the way that jump rope came in was because, of course, like when people want to lose weight, they want to do it as fast as possible. They want results now, basically. So I did what anyone would do, is I looked up on Google like fastest ways to burn calories and stuff like that.
Nice. Yep. There you go.
It is the simplest answer. That's what I did. But jump rope came up. And with jump rope, I've always had a sort of fascination with it because I'm a big Rocky fan. And when I was a kid, I did join a
Nice.
boxing club. And, part of the warm up which is what most boxers do, would be they would jump rope. And I was in awe of people doing that. I couldn't do it. I could do like a little. It was basically 2 jumps per 1 revolution of the rope. Like how
Double
beginners
under.
do. But no, I mean like 2 jumps between like. What I would do is I would jump twice every time the rope comes over once.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Double jump. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But like a little kid would do. That was all I could do. But what they were doing was just like boxer skip and just regular bounce. But I was just in awe of that. I just was like, how can they do it like that? They weren't doing double unders. They weren't doing much fancy. It was boxer skip, some crossovers, and then just sort of regular bounce. But that with the Rocky films, I thought I'm going to give it a go. So I did try it when I was younger, but I bought a rope. I gave it probably one afternoon and then said, I can't do it, and put it down, basically. Like a lot of people do when they start off, they get frustrated because they can't do the trick straight away, so they just put it down and leave it.
You know what's so funny to me, real quick, just to touch on that?
Yes, sure.
That is so funny because you show up to the gym and you can't do something on your first go around. You're like, forget it, I'm done. But like we show up to university and school and take decades to learn what we're trying to learn. Like,
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's just a different thing. Like it's still going to take you time. Anyway.
Yeah, with any skill, with any skill, you've got to put that time in to learn it. It's just, that's what it is. So that was a couple of years ago, but then, of course, like I said, I looked up on the internet, saw jump rope, and I thought, I'll give it another go. So I bought a rope, went on YouTube, looked at a couple of tutorials, and the jump rope dudes came up, or as they were known then, Zen Dude Fitness. And basically, I would watch the tutorials, and I would practice, and basically through that channel, and those guys are great. I love them, and I often tell them, that they're like legends to me because they made exercise fun for me, and I wouldn't have lost the weight if I hadn't have found jump rope. And basically through watching their tutorials and just practicing, I learned to love it, and and as you can see now, it's something I'm passionate about and something I do every day. So it was through that basically that I lost the weight basically.
What were your practices like as you were learning? Were you showing up for an hour and drilling the same thing over and over, or what did that look like then?
Well, at first I would show up to the gym, which is the gym that I'm now a PT at, and I would jump for about maybe 15 minutes and just I would basically just freestyle, just trying to get basics down, like the regular bounce. And I would only probably manage about 10, 15 minutes, and then that would be it. And I couldn't really do much more. And I would often jump outside my house. I used to jump outside and just sort of practice and just keep practicing like a little bit each day until after I started April, not last year, but the year before. So 2017, April 2017 is when I picked up the rope. And then it was about the 15th of June that I decided that I'm going to try and do it every day, because the the jump rope dudes say, they say, do the thing and do the thing, every day. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to try and do that. And I didn't realize how far that would take me once I decided to do that. But I just thought, yeah, I'll try and do it every day. I mean, if I'm ill or if I just not feeling it, or just I won't beat myself up, but I'll try and do it every day, and at first I was just doing like 15 minutes a day. Then some days I was doing 15 minutes and near half an hour, until now I'm doing half an hour every single day without fail.
Wow.
And doing weights as well as that. But at first it was just jump rope and just doing that 15 or so minutes and just sort of practicing, learning tricks, and then kind of developing it from there, really.
And that half an hour that you're doing now, that's jumping straight through, or are there breaks?
So when I first started, I would just I wouldn't time it. But then what I would do, which is what I do now, is basically I always put a half an hour timer on my iPod. And what I'll do is I'll skip. And then if I change a rope, or if I just need to catch my breath or whatever, I'll pause the timer, just quickly do that. And then when I start up again, I'll continue the timer, basically. So I make sure that I do half an hour every day, basically.
So what are you doing other exercises in addition to jump rope? Or what does your fitness routine look like now?
So I always do about 9 hours plus a week of exercise. So I do, most days I do an hour a day at the gym, apart from 2 days a week where I'll do 2 hours. There's always that half an hour of jump rope, so that counts for half an hour of whatever day. Then I'll do half an hour of weights, or if it's a 2 hour day, I'll do half an hour of jump rope, half an hour on the cross trainer, and then I'm basically an hour of weights, basically. And that's
that half an hour,
my routine.
Sorry, that half an hour is exactly timed of a half an hour of work, excluding the rest periods.
Excluding the rest, yeah.
Okay, very cool. What kind of weights are you doing?
Weights, all sorts. I mean, deadlifts and squats and let's see, working adductors, the abdominal, all sorts really. Just sort of different weights each day. Lat pull down. Just depending what day, I'll work a certain thing each day. I'll normally do a bit of abs every day. Like I'll do sit-ups every day. But yeah, basically it's just sort of mix it up, try and do some arm exercise and then something else. But I mean, I know I work my legs a lot with with jumping rope, but yeah, just sort of vary it up each day, basically.
Nice. And so now you've recently become a personal trainer, right?
Yeah, basically qualified to basically the start of March, basically. Around the start of March, I found out that I'd passed all my exams and then qualified, and then I've become a PT in the gym that I trained at. So
yes, dude, congrats. That's awesome.
I know, and it's funny because like a lot of the members will like remember me from when I was big, and so if
that's
someone would have told
inspiring.
me that,
wow.
Yeah, I mean a lot. I'll often think back, like when I first started to come here, would I have ever thought I would become a PT here, never mind get into shape and all that lot. So it's been a long journey, but 100% worth it, 100%.
And so what are your goals now that you're a PT? Just to keep putting this kind of, energy out in the world and helping people? Or is it more?
just to help people. Like I was speaking with Mimi, who we both know, an amazing jumper, and I was saying to her, like, when I was thinking about it, I'd love to teach people how to jump rope for a living. Like it's something that I love. I do every day. I'm passionate about. And
I understand that feeling.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I just love to pass it on, and becoming a PT was a way to do that, to help people lose weight, or people who may be in a similar situation that I was, to teach jump rope and to, just to do something that can help people. So now the fact that I'm doing that as a job and that I've got that, it's really gratifying, basically.
And so I know it's still, recent that you became a PT, but do you integrate jump rope consistently with your clients, or how do you do that? What do your
Well, with
programs look
only
like?
like just becoming one, like I've got some consultations booked in, so I haven't got my first client just yet, but because
Okay.
I've only just sort of started, because I qualified and then I basically had to apply to work at the gym that I'm training at, that I train at, and basically go through all that and set up. So I've only recently just started working there, so I've got my first consultations coming up, but I will be definitely incorporating jump rope, and for people who want to learn it, or if not, then I will be incorporating different things or different cardio like pad work, or if depending on what their goals are, etc.
Dude, I am really excited to touch back with you and Chris Walker in like a year. Because
Yeah,
you guys
definitely.
are gonna, oh man, I can't wait to like reference this in a year, and you guys are gonna be like, oh man, I remember when I was first starting, but now I have like a million different clients, and all we do is ever jump rope.
Well, that's all I ever do anyway, jump rope. So,
Yeah, right.
but yeah, no, I'll be seeing Chris tomorrow. Well, no, on Saturday we're both going to a jump rope event in London. So,
Oh, nice. That's awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome. You
yeah,
guys are gonna hang out.
yeah.
What? How did you develop your style? You said that it was influenced mostly by boxing.
Um, my style of skipping. Well, I just sort of like when I first started out, it was just more like I wasn't. At first, it was just like I wanted to just do the basic tricks. Like I wasn't really ever even dreaming of learning like triple unders or EBs and stuff like that. It was just sort of like just try and learn some of the basics and just do it just to lose weight. But then, of course, once I fell in love with it, it became like a game. Like, what new trick can I learn next, and and just pushing myself that way. So my style, I just sort of freestyle basically. Like, I just sort of just kind of get into that flow state, like Anisha was talking about. Just sort of
Mm-hmm.
choosing what's right. I mean, during my actual workouts, I do get into kind of a routine, as in like I'll make sure I do a couple of double unders and some 360s and this, that, and the other. But most of the time, I kind of like to just sort of be in the moment and just sort of go with that. Just let my music play and just either do it to the beat of that, or it just sort of switch it up. But yeah, I don't know how to describe my style, to be honest. Like if I was to describe others, like yours is very like technical and powerful, and like people like Mimi's is very like elegant and like fluid, and and stuff like that. People like Alex Gonzalez, she always like to make it like to a beat and is like passionate and always got a smile on her face, and just sort of. But I don't know how I'd describe my style really. But
And those are the people that you're looking at now.
well, I follow like a lot of people. I love watching other people jump. With skipping, it's like everyone's got their own style and their own, just through different things, the way they move, even just like little things, like even like if they have an injury or something, they move the body slightly differently, which can change everything really.
I kind of want to underscore something here, and that's that we're using mainly Instagram, but you can kind of categorize all social media platforms, but mostly Instagram to connect with each
Yeah.
other. And it's I've said it before on other podcasts and through DM and stuff on Instagram, but like it blows my mind how everyone's able to connect the way we do
Yeah.
about jump rope.
That that's why I love it. I love that I'm able to connect with people from all over the globe, like you in California, and people in France, people in Brazil, and people all over the world, where we all have this thing in common that we're passionate about, and we can all admire each other's styles, and just it's a great community. It's something that I haven't experienced before anywhere else, and it's something that it is amazing. I wouldn't have traveled to LA and New York on my own, and to Paris on my own if it wasn't for this community and the people that I've met at meetups and all the different stories. And like your podcast, you're talking about to all these different people from different places who have gone through different and incredible things and have found a common ground that they all love and that they all are passionate and want to share.
Yeah, man, it blows my mind, and I want to share like a quick little story because I was actually, before we started talking this morning, I was chatting with Cebu Soto. Have you seen him on Instagram?
Yeah, I think so. Let me double check.
Yeah, I believe he's in South Africa, Cebu. If I get that wrong, I'm sorry. But him and I have known each other digitally for a while. It blew a lot of like the people who have done competitive jump rope used to do a lot of YouTube videos way back in the day, and I would post a lot. And I'm talking like literally 8 years ago, before most of this jump rope stuff even existed besides the competitive sport world. And he just we were just briefly chatting, and he just told me that, for him, he's had a lot of challenges as well, and it was what he looked forward to every week, taking the time to get better, post on YouTube, and then connect with people like me or Dylan or Adam or a bunch of these other guys. And man, it's just wild because then he ended up, same kind of similar to your story, he ended up flying out to the U.S. to compete in our national tournament back in, I'm going to get the year wrong, but I want to say it was like something around 2013 or 2014. I'll have to double check that. That might not be correct. But anyway, he flew out, and I remember meeting him like, holy shit, like I'm actually meeting this guy that I've talked to, and it clicked, man. Like I was like, oh, that's what this is about. This is about actually connecting with other human beings who share this, and regardless of what else we, believe or experience in life, like we have this one thing that we can connect on, and it's so crazy powerful that we can do that across the whole world,
Exactly. I mean, there's people that I, like you say, spoke to on Instagram, never met them, and then I'm hanging out with them at a rooftop party. Like Danielle, like Daniela, I'd never met her before. We were speaking on Instagram. I've said, oh, we're coming to New York. We met up at a jump rope meetup, and then a couple of hours later, we were at a rooftop party in New York. And it's incredible the wonderful people that I've met on this journey. I often get asked, like if I could change anything, would I? And honestly, I wouldn't. Even though what I went through was hell, and I didn't think I'd be here today, I wouldn't have met the people that I have met or made the connections that I've made if I hadn't have gone through that journey. I wouldn't be the person who I am now. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, that is really powerful. You said Daniela. Can you remind me which person that is?
Welcome to 40 something.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I saw your interview with her. That was really good.
Yeah.
All right. Last question here. Actually, no. Hold on. I have a different question for you. Film. You studied film in college. I want to double back to that because I did too. That's what I started school with. What got you into that?
Cool. Probably Jaws. Like I remember seeing that for the first time and
nice.
Thinking, wow. Like I wanted to be a marine biologist when I was a kid because I loved sharks. And then I remember watching Jaws, and I was just like, it blew me away. I was like, that's incredible. And then I got into film, and then I was hoping to be a director, and maybe one day I might circle back around, or I don't know, direct a jump rope documentary, combine the two, But yeah, no, I still have that love for film, but I'm more passionate about jump rope at the moment. I love to do it, and it's always a pleasure to do it every single day,
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, now I have the last question for you. Same question I ask everyone. What is jump rope for you?
Jump rope is a lifesaver and freedom for me. Because, when I jump, I can just escape no matter what's happening, in my day-to-day life, whatever. If I'm having a bad day, a good day, it just once I'm done at the end, I've just left everything out on, everything out there. I'll stop and my heart's beating in my chest like mad, and I'm struggling to catch my breath. But I also feel like at peace at the end. You know what I mean? Like, you just sort of like your heart's pounding and you're sweating like mad, but you just sort of feel at peace at the same time. So, yeah, I'd say that. I'd say like freedom, and for me anyway, it was a lifesaver. So,
do you get that like that jump rope high like right after a workout?
Oh
After
yeah,
you've calmed down?
it feels like my day doesn't start until I jump rope. Like
Dude, I
once I've
love
jumped
that.
rope, it's like okay, now I can get on the road the rest of my day. So even like it doesn't feel like the day has started. Like it's nearly 3 o'clock. Like I've not jumped rope yet, but once I do, it'll be like right, let's get on with the rest of the day.
Nice. What time of day do you usually jump?
It just varies. I mean, I normally like to do it around midday, but because I'm working as a PT and I also am a barista as well at a coffee shop, and I'm like trying to set up PT stuff as well, so I'm really busy these days. So it just depends when I have that free time, but I'll always make that free time.
Man. Well, dude, this has been really awesome. Like I can't thank you enough for hopping on the call and sharing your journey. And I've had so much fun talking to you. Like we've gone on DM for a while now, but like we finally
Yeah,
hopped on a
yeah.
call, and this has been so awesome.
Yeah, it's honestly I've loved it, mate, and I always enjoy listening to your podcasts. I mean, while
Thank
I'm
you.
lifting weights, I've been listening to you and Anisha and you and Chris. So it's been a pleasure to be on, and call anytime, mate.
Definitely. Well, we're definitely gonna do a follow up at some point because you're about to crush it. I can feel it, and I definitely want to hear how that all goes for sure.
Oh, thanks, dude.
All right, man. Well, we'll talk to you next time, man. Thank you for being
Thanks,
on.
Nate. Cheers.